Hello and welcome along to the Panto podcast. This week my guest is Cabble Reid. In this episode he tells me how a comedy course changed his life, working with a famous fox, who was a guest on a previous episode, and how dressers should be treating the talents. Very interesting. So please sit back and enjoy the latest Panto podcast. My guest for today's Panto podcast is Cabble Reid. And we were just talking about the name, and it's a lovely name.
It's lovely double-barreled posh name.
How did that come about then?
Don't ask Zoe Lyons and we're all right. So my name's Cabble. My husband is Reid. And we thought, can we swear on here?
You can swear if you want.
We thought it'd be twats and we'll double barrel it. That's as far as my swearing will go. Yeah, double barreled.
Double barreled name, oh dear me. So, I always start off asking people how they got started in the business. So for you, were you a funny child?
Not really. Oh. I was quite an odd child. I think I was always an entertainer. Even in primary school, I used to set up little dance groups, teach little routines, do little pop groups. I was that person. And that carried on right way through to college, to be honest with you. But yeah, I was always the sort of entertainer. I remember teachers saying to me, you ought to go on that morning TV show where they sing in the shower and all this sort of thing. So I was always very much an entertainer, just messing around. I never wanted to do anything. I never wanted to learn anything. Science, geography, couldn't be interested in the slightest. I just wanted to perform or do something in entertainment.
And that was it. So did you ever do drama at school? Or?
I was too afraid to do drama. I was because I was pretty shy as well, believe it or not. The thought of it terrified me, absolutely terrified me. So and I was at a West Country school where we didn't really have, we had music, very basic. Drama, we had a couple of black mats that you could roll around on if you wanted to, but apart from that, there was no drama as such. Didn't happen.
So never school plays or anything like that?
No, never. Oh my God, no. We were never that lucky, to be honest. I've never thought about that. Nothing. There was like an amateur operatics group that used to use the school hall, and I think sometimes they like to do Oliver, and you could be a kid doing Oliver, but I was at home eating at that point.
So what then made you come up with this little character?
Do you know what? I actually went away, auditioning for West End shows and all this, and I'd get two or three auditions down, never get it. Went away on a cruise ships for a few years. I did 2 ships. And when I came back, I just couldn't get back into the swing of it. You find a lot of people when they work away at sea, to come back and try and get back into getting a new agent, never happens. So I did a comedy course. I thought, right, I did a bit of work in property and stuff, and I thought, I'm not ready to give up on the business just yet, so I'm going to do a comedy course and I'm going to become a stand-up comic. That was my thought. That's what I'm going to do. My last chance at entertainment. If that doesn't work, that's it. I'll just go and do something normal. So I did a comedy course, the Amuse Moose course in Covent Garden. Logan Murray runs it, who's amazing. Sunday afternoons for 3 months, and then we did a showcase. But what we had to do on the course was create a character, so something that we'd know about. So for me, it was a cruise ship entertainer who's past his sell-by date, wears shirts far too tight for him but doesn't really realise, far too much fake tan, and always likes a bit of sparkle. Is it based on someone I know? Possibly. But that was the idea. And it worked. It happened. And then when I left the comedy class, I was doing all the open mic nights in London, which can be a nightmare. And I did one once, and there was about 22 of us in the room. And all the people watching were all comics who all had to pick a number, and then your number get called out and you have to go up on stage. So I was surrounded by people that were all just sat like looking at notes. No one's listening to anyone. And I just thought, this is just not worth it. And everyone looked the same. It was all kind of people that looked like me, or there was no sort of cabaret, I guess. So I decided to create this character, the blonde wig, the fake tan, the gold sequins, and a persona of someone that's just come off the cruise ships and performing on land. And I turned up at in Islington, an open mic night, and again there was like 7 blokes that all looked like me, and I walked in as Kevin, and it just worked. But it was too big a character to keep doing those events and those gigs, so I then entered a drag idol competition in London, which they were looking for all kinds of acts, not just drag acts, but I was wig, makeup, wasn't far off it. And then I went down through the heats, won it for London, and then I was up against Birmingham, Manchester, London, and someone else, and they won the competition. And that if you won it, you got a gig in every place that hosted it, every pub or club. So there's about 17 venues around the country, and so I got my first sort of like little tour of gigs, and then it took off from there. And then that's when I got spotted by a producer from BGT, who said, have you ever thought about family entertainment? Because it wasn't the cleanest of shows, being Kevin Cruise from the cruise ships. Always cruising, no time for a love life, I'm always cruising. So I thought, yeah, I can clean it up a little bit, that'd be fine, yeah, why not? And then that took off, and then that went on to another journey.
What was the touring like then?
Oh, it was fine. But it's I'm a bit of a family man, actually. I'm quite old school, so I think turning up at some pubs at midnight, going on at 1. In fact, actually, the Black Cap in London, which is like legendary for Lily Savage first gig and things, I used to do a Wednesday night, and my stage time was 12:45 in the morning. And so I used to leave my house, and I had housemates at the time, and they'd all be in bed, like the big light would be off, the hall light would be off, and I'd think, I've got another hour. And I'd leave at 11:30 at night, get to Camden, walk into a venue thinking, who's going to be here at 12 midnight? And it would be busy, you know, most of the time. And I'd go on at 12:45 and do my stuff to a load of drunken office workers having their last drink. But I'm a little bit of a, you know, I like being at home, I like having dinner, you know. I wasn't married at the time then, but even then I like an early night, which is why holiday parks now suit me brilliantly, because I'm on at 8, I'm back to my accommodation by 9, lovely. In bed by 10, perfect.
Finish off the jigsaw as well.
Finish off. Do not get me started on jigsaws.
We were just talking about lockdown and the silly things we've been doing over lockdown. And have you found yourself doing anything out of the ordinary?
Well, certainly not jigsaws. That's I can't start that. I'd get obsessed by it. That's the problem. I'll have these massive, because you have mats, don't you, where you roll them up or something.
Only the pros. I haven't got one.
Oh, that's your next purchase.
No, it's not.
Get a puzzle mat. Brilliant. No, nothing really. Nothing out of the ordinary. I think I've done what everyone else has done. Made banana bread. I keep saying to myself, I'm going to read a book. Get up one day and I'm just going to read a book all day long, and it never happens because I do about a million things. But I set up a little company. I set up a new thing to do. Apart from that, everything else is just, yeah. All the greatest plans? No, never. Nothing.
So how did you get into pantomime then?
So it was doing Britain's Got Talent in 2010, and from that, a theatre or there was a few different theatres contacted me. Somebody wanted me to do a dame, and then 2 people offered me a comic, and I've auditioned for Bill Kenwright loads of times for Joseph. I even got down to like the last 4 boys for Joseph, and I didn't get it, which I was gutted about. But then I found out that the guy had to go on stage the next night, and I thought, wow, I never could have done that. So when I got offered it, because it was a Bill Kenwright who produced Panto at Theatre Royal Windsor. I was like, oh yeah, that's great. You know, I know Bill, and he's one of the big producers. Let's go for that one. And then I did my first year there in 2010 to 11, Cinderella, with Lisa Scott Lee from Steps and Charlie Dimmock. That was good. I'll tell you about that afterwards. Oh no, that's annoying when people say that, isn't it? No. They were great. They were fun. They were really good fun. A lot of fun. So I did that, and then I stayed. I got asked back for the next year, and then built up a little bit of a following, which I'm forever grateful for, really.
So was it difficult then, trying to sort of tone down with the humour and make it more family friendly?
At the start it was quite hard because I was playing to sort of predominantly gay bars, and I really put the innuendo on it. So yeah, but I think Kevin he's just an entertainer. He is just a lovable entertainer. So yeah, I had to change a few lyrics to songs that I might have changed.
Never found yourself accidentally singing it, or
No, never. I don't think I've ever done that. I don't think I've ever sworn on stage by accident. Brett Eklund did in Panto one year.
Did she?
She. I have to admit, she disappeared down a trap, as you do, playing the evil something or another, Caraboss, and I think her line was, "I'm a witch, an evil witch," and then she disappears. And then one show she just went, "I'm a witch, an evil bitch," and we just looked at her, and she had this look on her face. I said to say, "Oh my God, why have I, after 84 shows, why have I suddenly decided to say that?" And of course, we lost it. And afterwards, she was mortified. She was going around. I was like, no. I was like, Brit. She's got quite a strong accent, Swedish accent. So I was like, honestly, it sounded like witch. It really did, but no, it didn't at all. We never got a complaint though, so that's good. But apart from that, I don't think anyone's ever sworn. I'm sure not.
Was it nice then performing for families?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I loved it. It's my favourite thing. I think when you get grandparents. And their children and grandchildren together, and everyone gets, especially with Kevin, everyone gets that you're just there. It's unadulterated. It's just pure fun. And I think sometimes people take themselves a bit too seriously. I think some of the holiday parks, there's a point, like at a family wedding, isn't there, where you just need a bit of Amarillo, don't you? Like you can have all this Ed Sheeran stuff, it's all fine, but sometimes when you hear those opening chords of like Dancing Queen or YMCA, you just can't help but go, oh, come on, here we go, let's get on that dance floor. I think it's, Ariana Grande, no, come on, let's have a little bit of, One for Sorrow by Steps, and I'm done, I'm on it.
So where do you get your energy levels from then for all the performances?
Do you know what? I think Kevin's meant to be full of energy, because Kevin is one of those that, as a character, he is just full of energy. And I've always liked the idea of him being energised, and then he goes back to his cabin at night and he just sleeps forever and a day because he's full of it. But with me as a performer, I just kind of switch it on. I always feel like people have paid to come and see you, or they made the effort to come and sit in a venue to watch you, and I think you've got to give everything. And for me, because I'm so physical and I run around the stage, I'm quite a physical performer. Kevin does a lot of physical stuff. If there's no point just sort of hopping on a hill when you're meant to be jumping in the air. You need to go for it. So yeah, that's I just turn it on. I don't know where it comes from, really.
Did you go and see many pantos then when you were little?
We used to always go to a local amateur one in Shepton Mallet. We used to go every single year, and it was brilliant. But I used to be terrified when they used to get the kids. I don't know why I was so shy. We used to get the kids up for the song sheet, and I used to hide. I used to just hide. I hated the idea of it. It was so strange. But I always remember the dame who's a friend of mine now, Kevin Price, who used to climb over the chairs, and I used to love it. And his challenge every year was to climb to the back and then back again. It was only probably about a 150 seater. So when I started Windsor, one of my things was, Kevin is a good mate of mine, I'm going to take his little challenge of climbing over chairs, which is now what I do. Health and safety haven't stopped me yet, so I will keep. Well, I won't be able to climb this year if we do it, will I? I won't even be able to get on stage, I wouldn't have thought. But yeah, so we used to go to Shepton Mallet all the time. Really, really good fun. Proper old school pantomime. They had an organ and a drum kit. That was it. Yeah, all the characters, and every year you'd wait to see what the finale was. They'd pick their two colours, like gold and purple or mint and white. That was the big thing. I used to love it. But I think we used to go to Bristol Hippodrome a few times. I think we saw Lydia Savage there, and like Frank Bruno and things like that. So we did do a few biggies. But yeah, the local Amdram was where I started watching Panto for sure.
And it's stuck with you ever since.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, even when I did Britain's Got Talent, I thought, oh, I need to get Kevin a Panto. I think Kevin would be great in Panto. And I just knew it was my kind of humour. I just think it's a great art form as well. And obviously now, especially this year of ever, we realise how important it is, And I think there's a reason we have Easter pantos and summer pantos, and I've heard about this new company that are actually going to go out as just a touring panto like all year round, because it's just, everyone's safe, aren't they? You're sort of safe with it. You know, there's going to be everything that you need, whether it's grandparents or kids. It provides everything you need. Just it comes as a package. There's nothing to kind of be a bit like, oh, don't know if this will work, or we'll find it funny, or we'll understand the story. It's pure, unadulterated fun, and I love that.
With a dash of sauce, I'm sure you love.
With a dash of sauce. But do you know what? In Windsor, we have to be careful. When we did Dick Whittington, people were like, oh, I bet you're getting in all the jokes, and we're like, well, you've got to be a bit careful. They're a lovely crowd, but we are very much, it's like a self-producing house. So Windsor is the only self-producing theatre in the UK, and obviously it's produced by Bill, but we can't push it too much. I've seen other pantos where I've gone, oh my gosh, how are they even getting away with this? We would not be able to get away with it at all. It's very odd. And actually, we had a joke once where Stephen did he plays our Dame, Stephen Blakely. He says something about, I have to climb down into a cave, and it's the trap door. And someone says, oh, why don't you go down there? And then the Dame says, oh, no, my frock won't fit down. And then they say, why don't you climb down there? And then he says I was called Willie Do It. He's like, oh no, my willy won't fit in that hole. And that was the gag. And on the first night, literally the audience went, oh. And we're like, oh, okay. And then we said, let's do it another night. Let's just give it a go. The second night, huge laughter, lots of all the same reactions. But then the third night it was back, and it was just like this constantly. And we decided that we had to, if it was a good Thursday night, office party kind of thing, we'll go for it. But sometimes on a Wednesday, like, no, we've got to cut it. It just, very odd. So our Dick Whittington was quite tame. Just a couple of dick jokes.
You've got to keep up with the tradition, haven't you?
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh, we did that for sure.
Do you go and see many pantos now?
Do you know what? Every time we finish, and we run from sort of like 20th of November till the 10th of January, we do like a good old 6 weeks. I always want to go and see stuff, but I'm just knackered. I literally, I don't get any sort of like panto blues, but I am generally, I think I'm just covered in bruises and scars, and my ears are blocked with all the foam. It take about 3 weeks for my ears to come back to normal, and I'm just done for. But we did go to the Palladium last year. We had Marty Webb in the panto, and she knows Paul and Julian and stuff. So we got tickets, and we went to see that. And I think that was on our last day off, I think. And we got really good seats, and it was just like, what? It was
How are they getting away with this?
Well, but it was the light to start with. It was a light show. I remember that opening bit in the stage. It just, blimey, this is cracking. You know, it's amazing. But it wasn't really a panto, is it? It's more of a variety show. And I think once you get your head around that, it was fantastic. I know they got a bit of sort of slack for that, didn't they? But I just thought, you know what? It's a variety show. Everyone's having a really, really good time. And they made a joke themselves about not having any stories, so you can't go wrong, can you? Really?
Have you ever thought about writing panto?
Do you know what? Stephen is such a good writer. He's like a proper. I always say he should be doing panto in like some sort of Shakespearean art centre, and I should be doing panto at Butlins. That's how we work. So he'll come up with loads and loads of story. And sometimes I'll be like, do you know what? I think we just need a bit of physical comedy here. I don't think they really care about this part of the story. Let's just chuck in something stupid. And then sometimes I'm doing too much gags, and he'll go, I think we do need to probably put a bit of story in this bit. So we work together. So I'll send him loads of ideas throughout the year, silly ideas, and he'll be like, no, you can't come in on a UFO. That's not going to work with Jack and the Beanstalk. And then and back, I'll just chuck at it. I always say, my editor's off, here's a bunch of ideas, pick what you want, and he'll just fit bits into the story. Last year I did a Love Island mega mix. You know, he's just like, right, okay, is that a thing this year? I'm like, yeah, it is, it'll be fine, trust me. And it was fine.
Well, you're down with the kids, aren't you? That's it.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely down with the kids. But he's the first one to admit he doesn't sort of watch telly as such. So I'm like, leave all those bits to me. It's fine. Love Island is a thing. It's okay. So he writes the story and structures it, and he's brilliant with words. He's brilliant with storytelling. Keeps it engaging. And I just chuck in a bit of fluff to get some laughs here and there.
Who have been your comedy influences then over the years?
Oh God, I mean, I grew up with French and Saunders, Mrs. Merton back in the day. Victoria Wood I adore, so I'm proper old school with a lot of that. But yeah, and I still now, if I've got an afternoon where I just want to watch something, I'm fed up with everything, I'll be straight Victoria Wood, done, live it, the Albert Hall, that's me. And Acorn Antiques, which is I think where Kevin comes from as well, because Kevin is so bad that he's kind of good, if that makes sense. And so Acorn Antiques with Julie Walters and the whole Victoria Wood, that is my humour through and through. Absolutely, I love that. So like the Play What Goes Wrong and all these sort of things is my perfect cup of tea, which is probably why I love doing Panto, because a lot of the time we're covering for mistakes or things that happen.
And what about then the physicality and the slosh?
Oh yeah. It's weird with slosh because I always say every year we kind of think about how to do it, and every year I just say more and more, like I will dive into a pit of slosh if I have to, whatever I can do to get a laugh. And then when we actually do it, the change, and he always writes it, he does it on purpose. I have like a 30-second change and I've got to strip everything because I have a wig, I've got to take the wig off, my hair's wet, I've got to put a new wig on. It's manic. But I think the kids love slosh. It's something that I suppose now you can do more sort of in the garden and in someone with foam and everything, but they can't do what you do on stage. The way you get covered in slosh and slide around. I've slidden across the stage before, back and forth, and the kids love it. So I think the more the merrier. As much slosh as we possibly can, and every year it gets more and more. Dread to think what will happen this year.
Ever hurt yourself?
Yes. Yeah, every thing is, like I said, I don't mind. I probably shouldn't say it health and safety wise, but there'll always be some sort of fall that I'll do where I'm not probably doing it correctly, and I end up with a bruise, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But if I'm getting a laugh, I'm fine. I've got weeks afters. I don't do nothing till March. I'm fine. It will go. But I throw myself around, and I try and do it as safe as possible. But it's not always. You kind of, if you're going to do a fall, you need it to look realistic, don't you? You need it to be good. So yeah. I should probably get someone to teach me better to fall.
Good, or padding, or
some sort of, yeah, but it gives it away, padding, I think, for me. Sometimes it's, my costumes are tight enough as it is, let alone adding padding to the mix.
You set up then the Kevin Cruz Foundation.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, I got an email about 3 or 4 years ago of someone saying that they love coming to Panto, a local family in Windsor, but it's so expensive that they're going to have to do every other year. They just can't do it. And we know, I produce stuff myself, so I know how expensive it is, how much there is to pay for. So you just have to go, well, there's nothing I can do about the cost of tickets. That's not for me to decide. And I just thought there must be a way that I can somehow fund tickets for people the best that I can. And so I set up to start with, it was called the Royal Borough Theatre Project, and we were raising money for sick and disadvantaged children, and also volunteers, because people forget charity volunteers. They do, endless Sunday afternoons doing car boots in the pouring rain, and they do it out of the goodness of their heart. So I wanted to be someone that could say, here's some Panto tickets for doing so well for your charity. And it didn't really take off. Not a lot happened. And I know a lot of councillors and people that can offer grants. Being in the town for my 11th year now in Panto, I knew all the places to go. And a friend of mine came on board and said, you just need to call it what it is, the Kevin Cruz Charity or Foundation, and then people know what it is. So it's not like me to be narcissistic. I thought, you know what? Right, let's do it. Kevin Cruz Foundation. And we've done it now for 3 years, and so last year we bought over 500 tickets for children and charity volunteers, about 18 charities, and we bought tickets for Theatre or Windsor, but also like Northern Farm, and then 2 of the smaller Pantos that happen in the local area in Slough and Maidenhead. So we kind of sort of say to them, what night are you struggling, like on a Wednesday night maybe, we'll buy tickets for that night, so we're sort of helping them out. helping the charities by giving them the tickets, and yeah, it's great. And it's just one of those things that you just you say to a councillor, look, you're on the board for this, whatever, you give out grants for this, we need a grant, come on, let's do it. And I'll just get in there and go, right, I'm the comic from Windsor, you come and watch every year, give us some money for Christ's sake. And you get it, and it's lovely. It's a really lovely thing to do. And there's a lot of people. I had a letter last year from a family, and I probably won't say too much about who they are, but one of the little kids was really ill, like really, really ill, and the parents didn't want to bring, didn't want to come. They're like, why on earth would we want to go to Panto? Because horrible things are sort of starting to happen. And a neighbour, this is all in the letter, a neighbour said, I'll take the kid that's not very well and the 3 siblings, because I think it's important for them, it's a bit of time out. And they came along, and the neighbour, she wrote in her letter, I wish the parents had come because the kids had the best time. They never would have gone if they hadn't got tickets. The siblings had a great time. The little one wasn't very well, had a great time. And she said it was lovely to see sorry. It was lovely to see them enjoy something which might be like one of their last memories, you know what I mean? And yeah, they had a great time. And I just thought, oh, I'm so glad that I pushed for them to have tickets and to do that. And we have a lot of that. And some of these little kids are so flipping brilliant. They're so aware of what's going on, and they love it. They absolutely love it. So I like the fact, and also just people don't have the money now. They don't. I had a dad who wrote back to me saying that all the kids' presents are coming from the parent shop. We've got nothing major for them. So when we got given the tickets through one of the charities, that was their big Christmas present. And he was just like, thanks, mate, you're freaking brilliant. And you just, so we had a big ball last year to make some money, and there's only so many grants you can keep applying for, but every year I try and raise more money. I wish I could give out hundreds and hundreds of tickets. I wish I could give out loads, but you can only do so much, can't you?
Well, there'll be a link underneath the podcast.
Yes, please.
So people, if you're enjoying listening to this,
yes,
buy him a drink by putting a little $5 donation or something like this, because
well, we're registered now as well, so we've got a proper registration number, kevincruisefoundation.org.uk. It's all registered and everything, and like I said, it's me, and I've got an administrator, Lisa, who's brilliant, and all the money goes into it. And over lockdown we've been also running online workshops, so people can have a half-hour lesson in anything. I mean, from stage, behind the scenes, whatever. But then we've paid the teacher, so people aren't out of work, because there's a little bit of things about people saying how a lot of people are offering things for free, and people need to be paid for what they're doing. So singing teachers, dance teachers, we pay them to teach for half an hour, and somebody that wouldn't have the chance otherwise. But then we did it at the beginning, and then everyone else started doing it, and there was so much of it. But that was our little thing, and I guess we'll have to think about what to do this year, how it works. Might have to sort of leave it for a year and see what happens. But we are ready to just get as many people and many kids into the theatre as possible. We've also had families that have never been to Panto before. One of the ushers said to me, did you have tickets today for your charity? I was like, oh yeah, there was a couple of families. She went, yeah, they came in, they didn't know how anything worked. They didn't have a clue about how you sort of go to the box office to pick up the tickets, you go to here. They'd never been to the theatre ever. And so I was like, wow, you forget, don't you? You forget how, I don't think I've had a privileged life, but we used to go to the theatre as kids. Some people it's not on their radar. It's not what they do. It's not their thing. So.
Some people think it is elitist, and when you are charging a lot of money in some places for tickets.
Yeah. That's the thing. And Theatre Windsor, it's really good because they do some great discounts, 2-for-1s or £10 tickets. But the thing is, if it's not on your radar, why would you? Why would you go? It's a bit like if you're not into exercise, you wouldn't even know about a gym or how a gym works. It's just not on your radar, is it? It's not something you sort of think about. So it's great to try and
know
get.
about that.
No, tell me about it. I just ignore it. I'll just walk past it like this.
Of all the things for you to pick to say,
Lockdown's been cruel to many people.
This little boy then that you were, this shy little boy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It sounds a million miles away from what you are now.
I know, it's strange, isn't it? I think it's confidence. I think it's pure confidence. I think I was rubbish at school at everything. Math, English. And actually, what was really strange, my mum bumped into a teacher from my primary school a few days ago, and she said, how's Martin getting on? You know, how is he? So on and so on. She went, oh yeah, well. And the teacher said, oh, he struggled, didn't he, a lot with his English. And Mum was like, oh yeah, I mean, we're talking 30 years ago now. So even, still remembered me from that. I was just terrible, and I couldn't be bothered. I was quite bone idle. And I just think I lost a lot of confidence as a kid because I wasn't very good, and I struggled to keep up with other people. And so I think once I started performing and doing something that I realised that I could make money from and a career from, and something that I enjoyed, that made a big difference, I remember I wanted to be a graphic designer at one point, and then I thought my English was so bad. 30 years ago, if you're a graphic designer, it would have been designing leaflets for, British Rail or something. I thought, I can't be doing that. My typing would be all over the place. Now, of course, I do my own graphic design, so I do, it's part of what I do now. So it's funny how things go full circle. Or sometimes when I've that downtime, I do posters for other people and get paid for it. So in a way, I kind of, it worked out quite nicely.
And then a few years ago, you became involved with a little tiny fox.
Oh, yes. I know, it's so weird, isn't it? Because I used to watch Basil on the telly as a kid. Well, not a kid, I guess a teenager. But it's so weird to be thinking that I'm now his mister. It's so strange. But again, that happened because he came to Windsor to do 1 year and then came back a second year. And the Mr. Stephen, his current mister, went into a play in the West End. I think it's the bank robbery one, I think. So he was out. He had to leave. So Mike said, well, look, we did the song sheet together. So with Basil and so on, he was like, Martin's great. Not as Kevin, because Kevin's too big a personality. He'd be trying to take limelight from the Fox. So he's like, but Martin doing it. I was like, I'd love to. Great, it's something else to do as well as Kevin. The Owen family, who obviously have Basil, were like, love the idea. They really liked what I do. So I took over the Mr. Martin role. And I think this is my 4th year now. And it works quite nicely because I have my Basil Brush gigs and Kevin gigs, and they all sort of work out. So for instance, Kevin Cruz, I do a lot of Park Dean. But for Basil, we sort of do like the Pontins. So you kind of fit in everywhere quite nicely. And then you get to do some really cool stuff like Glastonbury as Basil, which I used to do as Kevin, but I did it for a couple of years and that's that. So you get to tick lots of other little boxes, so it's perfect. Yeah, it works nicely.
Man of many talents, aren't you?
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people that would disagree with that saying, but yeah, it's weird though, because I did think, crikey, I'm used to going on stage as Kevin and being a character. How do I now go on as myself? But obviously last year we did Edinburgh Fringe, and we did for the very first time Unleashed, which is a Basil Brush grown-up show. And so that was taken to another stage. So when we do the kids show, I guess I'm a little bit Kevin, I sort of put on a bit of a persona, but we did it as a chat show. So it was me on a sofa, Basil behind a desk, and we had guests come on, and we had some VT and we did some games and stuff, but it was about the older generation and a little bit naughty. We didn't, Basil can't swear or anything, but we talked about Basil on dating apps and the other people he's dated, Sue and all these other characters. So it was brilliant, and it went down really well. But that was a big thing for me to do. My anxiety went through the roof to do Edinburgh, because you get reviewed by everyone. Everyone's got an opinion. But it luckily it went really well, and we were meant to be back this year with with another group. We're meant to be there for the entire of Edinburgh again, so that's a bit of a shame. But next year hopefully we'll be able to. So yeah.
Do you still get the nerves then for performances?
Yeah, I think on the first night of Panto it gets worse. I don't know why. I said to Stephen last year, I was literally beside myself. I couldn't concentrate. I was yabbering away. I talk too much when I'm nervous. It was terrible. And he did say to me, I think it's because people expect a lot from us. When it was our 10th year, and I think people expect us to deliver the goods. And on those first few days, you're not quite sure how the Panto's going to go or what's going to work. But terrible nerves. Terrible. I mean, I have to stand, and mindfulness that I practice, I have to just be in the moment and just realise that in 2 hours' time I'm going to be in the bar with a large glass of Malbec and it's all going to be fine. It's absolutely fine. Not that I do that every show, of course. But yeah, you have to put yourself in a place. I'm terrible. But 2 weeks in, you know, it's the usual, isn't it? I stand there and I'm going through my first line and I'm going over it and just thinking of how that first bit is over and over in my head. I can't talk to anyone. And then 2 weeks in, I'm nattering away to somebody backstage, and I'm yapping out. Oh, are we going to we're booking that table for dinner? And then, you know, you hear your line and you're on, and you don't even think about it. But the first week, yeah, I get terrible nerves. And actually in Edinburgh with the Basil Brush show, I think I was so nervous and anxious that I went into kind of like a nothingness. You know, sometimes when you laugh so much that you're not actually laughing anymore, you're just in a state of, yeah, it's terrible. But I just, like I say, I practice mindfulness, and I just put myself in a good place and crack on with it. It's part of and also with Kevin, I think obviously 10 years ago when I did BGT, people, and the show was bigger then, and you're on everything. I was in the magazines and on all the TV shows. Now it's not quite the same. So when I do the holiday parks, I've got to win them over. So I come on with all my feathers and makeup, and you can see people going, what the freaking hell's this? What's happening here? And I have to win them over. And luckily, touch wood, you know, it's always all right. But that's nerve-wracking, because you kind of go, is this going to be the gig when I get booed off stage? With Basil gigs, it's fine, because everyone knows Basil, they sort of know what to expect, and we have a really good time. It's not all on me, it's, you know, there's a few of us involved. So, yeah, I still suffer with nerves, but I think that's a good thing. That's all right. I'm quite happy with that. It's what you do, isn't it?
What was it like then, transferring from the pubs through to the clubs, through to theatres?
Yeah, I loved it, because, like I said, the late nights working the pubs was just a killer for me. And I remember doing a gig in Birmingham, and I was meant to be on stage at 11, so I got there at 10, and then they said they'd tell all the acts to be there early because they're never on time, so my stage time is 12, fine. and then 12 o'clock, and they go, we're going to give it half an hour, it's getting busy. Okay, 12:30 came, and then the drag act went on before me and did 2 numbers, but it ended up being 3 because it was a good crowd. And then they're having quite a lot of banter out there, so I went on at about 4 in the morning, I think, and I was just like, no, I can't do this. This is like, no. And the holiday parks, if you're on at 9, you're on at 9, because they've got someone else on at 9:30 or 10 o'clock. And I quite like that strictness. And I was never one, when I did all the pubs and the clubs, I was never one to go out drinking beforehand, drink during the show. Some people probably say I should have drunk more before a show, but I was never that person. I was quite focused. I always remember thinking, like, your drama school training, you should never drink, you should never do this, you never should do that, you should be professional. So I find it quite hard to do a lot of the pubs, because I was a bit of the boring one, really. It would just turn up and want to crack on with it. But so the holiday parks was perfect for me. And then working the theatres, again, it's, you know, you have to start at 7:30 and there's nothing you can do about it. So it was perfect. But I still love doing, I still do Manchester pubs and things, but it's a lot more relaxed. I'm there, like Gay Pride, I always do Manchester Pride, and I'm sort of there for the day, and it's brilliant. You know, I love that. If anyone books me for a pub, of course I'll do it, but past 8, oh, I don't know. I need my bed by 10 nowadays.
Would you ever wear the frock?
I don't think so. Someone did say to me once, Kevin should always be the comic because of his energy. Because I'm quite, you know, I'm always running around and everything. And even though my kind of comic is different to some people, I'm not a sort of, hello kids. I'm a bit more like, oh God, it's you lot again, is it? I'm a bit Paul O'Grady with my comic, which works at Windsor. You know, that's what that is. So I think to do Dame, I would be very much a Lily Savage Dame for sure. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. I think if I was offered it, I'd have to think. Yeah, I'd have to really think about that one. It might be easier as you get older to go into a Dame role, probably. I think a comic does need to be quite physical, I think. Yeah, I think... I don't know. I always picture myself staying at Windsor for many years to come, and we always laugh about how we'll just be wheeled on, hiding a whiskey bottle behind our back and mutter a few lines about, oh, we used to be funny once. Now look at him, he's rolled on and rolled off. I can see that happening.
You'd have to do so much research, though, wouldn't you, as well, to be a Dame?
Yeah, it's everyone sort of everyone thinks they can do a Dame, or oh yeah, I'll give that a go. And you've got to be a certain person, haven't you? You've got to have a. I mean, my kind of Dame is the lovable Dame, is the mum character, and I think Dame can be played by any way you can play it, absolutely. But mine is a kind of a lovable, mumsy sort of Dame. I think that's something that. Yeah, I think that's what I would want to try and be, but I do have this bit of sort of sarcasm within me that would have to happen. But I think I think a lot of people don't quite understand how much work's involved to be a Dame.
You said about the costume changes earlier on.
Yeah, I mean,
is that a part of Panto you don't like?
Yeah, but again, it all comes from my suggestions. That's the problem. I always go, oh yeah, let's do this and let's do that, and we'll do like a big Love Island medley. So I could strip off, and then this one's on, and you forget that you've got to put all these layers on if you're going to strip off. I had 11 costume changes last year, I think, and it was meant to be 3. I thought I'd give myself a limit of 3, and it ended up being 11. I think probably more than the Dame. They just sort of seem to happen. I don't know how we manage it. But yeah, that would be. I've got a brilliant dresser called Lucy, who she literally, I just stand there and she just strips me off in my pants, strips me back up again. Yeah, I'm usually trying to sort out my wig because I sweat so much on stage. I'm trying to wipe the sweat away from my wig, and she's just stripping me into something else. So she's amazing. I think dressers are the saviours of Panto for myself and the Dame. That's for sure. They're brilliant, and I like to think we treat them kindly as well, because they have to put up with a lot of stuff. And also sometimes when you can hear your music or your intro and you're still being zipped up, sometimes you say things in frustration, and Lucy's had a few swear words coming from me, that's for sure. I've come out going, I didn't mean it, I just had to get back on, and she'd be like, that's fine. Actually, we did, when we went to the Palladium, we went to see Julian afterwards, and his dresser, he had this cocktail sat there, and it was really posh. It had this like little strand of like vanilla on it, and I said to Stephen, I was like, blimey, we just get a mouthful of abuse after we finished Panto from our dress. And we went back the next day, and we just said to our dressers that, that they make them a little cocktail afterwards for when they finish on stage. And as always, we got a mouthful of abuse, and if you think that's going to happen, you can think again, sunshines. But that show, it was a 3-show day, and on the last show we came back and sat in our dressing room. Stephen walked into his first and was like, oh my gosh. I walked in, and there was this martini glass with a cocktail, and it had the sugar around the rim and a little bit of mint, and I was like, oh. And I said, this needs to happen after every show, to which I got a mouthful of abuse, and they said, this is happening one and only time. If the Palladium can do it, we can do it. But we have a laugh. But they're amazing. They're really good. I bring lots of cake and chocolate, so I keep them happy.
That time of year, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
How do you handle the song sheets then? Because working with kids for that first time must have been quite tricky as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, doing the holiday parks has helped with that, that's for sure. But I love doing the song sheet. I love the fact that you've got 3 or 4 kids stood there. You've got the mic, and you're like, "What's your name? Where'd you come from?" And you don't know what is going to happen, and then you get those moments of utter joy where you didn't even really need to do the previous 2 hours. You might as well have just cut straight to the song sheet, because you can't write some of it. I mean, some of it's just brilliant, but I have a lot of fun. I think in Windsor we keep it quite, we do the interview, we do a little song, and it's quick, it's kind of, we like it just to be, they need to change the set and then we're done. But we get a lot of fun out of the kids. We do get a lot of fun. And Windsor, it's such a small theatre. I think a lot of people in the audience feel that they know the kids as well. A lot of the kids that come up on stage are obviously quite, they want to come up on stage, you know, they're sort of quite performers, and they've probably entertained the audience at points as well. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
The whole being upstaged by children as well.
Oh my gosh, I mean, I get upstaged all the time. I think last year it was it's those wonderful little moments where it's probably quite cliche, but last year that, oh, you know, where do you live? Next to my neighbour. Where does your neighbour live? Next to me. You know, all that sort of stuff. And these kids love it, but I love the fact that they're getting laughter from it, and they'll play up on it, and I'm just like, many a time I've gone, just take my mic, do what you want, you know, or they'll say they want to sing a song, or can you sing, and they'll start something, and you know, I take my mic, go for it, and as long as the audience are engaged, they'll go on forever. In fact, a kid last year sang the entire version of I'm Still Standing by Elton John, and the band started, you know, played in, it was part of our Panto as well, we did it in the Panto, and he started singing it, and he was brilliant. And so the pianist was playing, and then the drummer come in, and the audience were clapping, some of them started standing, and you go, just do it, just do the whole thing. I got shouted at for the Panto overrunning by about 7 minutes. But those moments are great, and I think the audience also realise that they're watching something that's not happened before, won't happen again, and they're all in on it, you know? Like if something goes wrong and you have to stop, it feels exciting. But also you have to be very aware that if you get to the second verse and people are a bit like, oh, we're just clapping to be polite, you need to knock it on the head. I like to think I'm quite good at going, okay, yep, that was great, now we move on. But it was electric. The whole place was just absolutely buzzing. This kid was giving it everything. It's great, you know.
Is there anything else you'd like to do with your career? Because you've already done loads so far.
Sometimes I do feel like I've had a life. I'm ready to get a farm and just collect eggs of a day from their chickens. Honestly, I mean, I did drama school in 2000. Yeah, 2000. So 20 years. I do feel like it's time to retire. But as long as the work's there. This was actually meant to be my busiest year in 8 years. I had over 100 gigs I had to cancel this year, and I just find that as long as the work's coming, fine. And I think if it does start, dwindling off, then I'm happy with that. Unlike some people, I'm kind of like, do you know what? I feel very, very lucky. I feel very privileged, and if it comes to a natural end, then fantastic. What a great time! I'll just head to run a bar in Benidorm and just tell people that I used to be I went on the telly once with a gold sequin shirt and. Have my husband roll his eyes at another story. I'll be quite happy. But for now, yeah. But because I practice mindfulness and my anxiety as a performer, I've started walking, which we've mentioned before, and rambling, which helps me so much. And actually, when you do gigs, to go somewhere knowing that now I sort of look for rambling places or somewhere that's got a really nice beach to walk, it makes gigs a lot more fun because you're doing it for other reasons. And in lockdown I set up bramblehapppy.co.uk, which is about another plug, thanks very much, which is all about anxiety and mindfulness, and not so much positivity because I'm not sure I sit with that, but just being in the moment and appreciating what's what. And and it helps me so much to get out walking and think through things, and especially performing, because you can get so in your own head with stuff coming up, especially like I mentioned with Edinburgh. When you get a chance to just think it through, and it's not all that bad, it's not that serious, it's not that dramatic, it's fine. That's been a great thing for me, and I do think performers should have some sort of backup, like back in the day. I think we all should have. In fact, I think drama school should start, when you tick that box for, 3-year MT course or whatever it is, I think there should be another box going, and also, do you want to learn to be a plasterer, electrician, I think we all need that. I think that's really important. As we know now, this year, blimey, I've got so many friends that have set up extra companies or that have been into health and fitness. Now they're personal trainers, and it can run alongside performing, and when they finish performing, if a show finishes and they're out of work, they can do that and earn good money from it. I think everybody needs that extra job, and maybe this year's the year. Maybe it's a good thing for stuff like that, where drama schools need to address an industry which is 95% people work in, is it? I think, or at one time.
The harsh reality that
there's
not much work out there.
Yeah, and when you finish a show like for Panto, I mean, God, I wish I was a plasterer. I mean, so I've got a mate that does it, and he when he finishes Panto on a Sunday, he's plastering a house for £300 a day on the Monday, and he's sorted. Whereas other people are trying to look for that bit of part-time work which doesn't pay very well. So that's what I might do, train to be a plasterer, and everyone should have that extra thing. And I think this year's the year when they go, right, this needs to somehow. So with my rambling and everything that I'm doing with that, it's like a little extra thing. I do photography, so I'm selling my pictures online, making a little bit of money, and I like to think in downtime I can push that a bit more. I've got some organised rambles that people pay to come on, and we do this little sort of photography thing as well, and it'd be nice to run alongside the performing work. I think it's an honour to be a performer and to do what we do. It's a real luxury, isn't it? Even though we work hard at it, and it's hard work for many reasons. I think it's good to have some kind of key worker skill. And as we know this year, key workers, my God, they're like, they've been a godsend, haven't they? So I might contact my old drama school and say, right, you need to offer some electrician courses as well.
It's a shame, isn't it, that there's so many people whose careers have just literally been finished overnight.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like I said, I've got a few friends that have been really busy, and they're very aware that they won't be able to get work going for a few years, and that they need to retrain and do something else. But also they're not ready to give up on the business. So it's what do you retrain in that you can, you can sort of plod along. A friend of mine's now started dog grooming, and but again, if they get a good clientele and they get the same repeat, the thing about lockdown, it worried me. I thought, if I start creating other work, is there going to be a point when this other work is actually making me a profit, making me money, and will I start thinking differently about performing and start knocking it on the head? And I think there's many people are in some very strange situations at the moment, and what to do and how to do it. And it's not easy to go into Panto for 3 months if you're running something else. You've started another friend starting a coffee shop, and I don't know how that will affect them cause they always do Panto. How that works. So yeah, it's a very odd time for that, I think.
You said earlier you don't get the Panto blues. So what is it like straight after that last performance and you clear the dressing room? What do you do?
Well, I do a cabaret show in March in a theatre, mainly because I've got that little following in Windsor. So I do a big theatre show for 2 hours, and it gives me a chance to do all the stuff that I couldn't do at holiday parks because they probably think I've completely lost my marbles. So I do things like, one year I did like a bingo, but everyone's got the same card, so everyone gets bingo at the same time. And then I've only got like a teddy bear to give out, so I just rip the teddy bear into little pieces and give everyone a bit of the teddy bear. If I did that at holiday park, it would kick off. I mean, it would it would be chaos. And I did lots of parody videos and things. I did like a movie theme show, and it was all sort of stuff. So I get a chance to put that together. So really, when I finish Panto, I'm thinking about that and planning that as a next thing. And actually, I manage myself a lot, so contacting holiday parks, getting the gigs coming, sorting things out, getting gigs in, and planning the year ahead. I do have about a week of being a little bit flat, because you're surrounded all these wonderful people for 3 months, and you go through so much, and then everyone just disappears, and that's a very odd feeling, especially when you work like I do. You're at home a lot. I've got 2 dogs that keep me company, but my husband goes to work 9 to 5, and it's very strange to just sort of be sat there by yourself twiddling your thumbs a little bit. So I try and put as much work into my cabaret show as possible, and just sort of think about the year ahead, really.
This leads me on to my last question.
Oh, I forgot you asked this. Yes.
Oh, what?
Oh no.
Well, there we go. You're on the spot now, aren't you? So your dream Panto.
Oh, crikey.
You can choose the venue, the cast, the crew, the production, and don't forget, the cast and crew could be alive or dead, or a mixture of both.
Well, actually, do you know what? Jack and the Beanstalk's my favourite Panto. It's really organic. It's a proper Panto to me. I think you can do it with 2 people or 100 people. for me, Jack and the Beanstalk, definitely. With regards to characters, I think someone like Jack would be played by Paul O'Grady. I think that could be quite. My Panto would be really random. It would be random. French and Saunders would have to be in it. Maybe fairies or something. We'd have fairies in it. We'd make it up. Victoria would, without fail. I think Anita Harris, who I've worked with a few times in Panto. Anita Harris is like a diamond. That's all I have to say. So she would have to be in it without fail. She's gorgeous. And a few years ago, I got to work with my absolute idol, Denise Pearson from 5 Star. I was a huge 5 Star fan. So the fact that she came in as our fairy in Sleeping Beauty was just life changing. So Denise Pearson would have to be in it. She could be like the Beanstalk or something. It'd be one of those sort of Little Shop of Horror Beanstalks. She should come on and sing the end of the finale or something.
Very female orientated.
Yeah, it is actually, isn't it? Because even Paul O'Grady, I'll probably do it as Lily.
Well, you said about your comedy heroes
Yeah,
earlier on,
yeah.
and comedy influences, and they're all female.
Yeah, it is. Never thought about that. I think everybody that I would, cast. Yeah, I love female comedians. I love Zoe Lyons is one of my favourite at the moment. She guested on our show in Edinburgh, so I'm a big fan of hers. And I've just discovered Flo and Joan, or Joan and Flo. Do you know? Wow,
Their songs are incredible.
Oh, that Lady in the Woods song. I mean, YouTube that if you can. Yeah, but I'm really geared towards the female comedians. I don't know why. Strange, isn't it?
It's always puzzled me why you get... Well, I have a theory about why you don't get as many female comedians as male comedians, because men are just little boys that want to be loved and entertained and are the class clown. Very rarely you hear of a class clown who's a lady.
Yeah.
That's what I've found from doing my research and observing people as well.
Yeah.
How many men... It's a bit of a crazy scenario to stand there in front of 200 people with a microphone and go, I want you to like me.
Yeah.
Women on the whole, and please don't shoot me down, ladies, for this, but they don't need that sort of encouragement in life because they do what they do, whereas men are quite fragile souls.
Yeah, and do you know what? I get on, like, some of my best friends that are female, like, it just, it's just weird. And actually, me and my husband, a lot of our friends we're friends with, for instance, the sort of wife of somebody, or actually we'll meet a bloke and we'll end up getting on with the wife better than do you know what I mean? We've always been like that. Maybe it's because we're a couple of puffs, I don't know,
Is he from a theatrical background?
No, not at all. He works in sort of finance. He's like Chandler. He does something in finance. He does numbers and things, I'm not sure. Although actually in the lockdown it's been brilliant because he's been working from home and I've had to listen to his work conversations, and I honestly, I anybody that works in that kind of corporate finance work, it's fascinating. The language. They talk more about talking than they do about, like, they talk more about organising something than actually doing it. It's like, when we need to talk about when we're going to schedule that meeting. Well, we all need to put a vote in when we can schedule that meeting, and they talk about scheduling something. But no one actually talks about what the meeting's about. It's just when it's going to be scheduled and when it's going to happen and how that works. And I just sit there pulling faces going, I don't know what you talk about. Like, nothing happens. Nothing happens at all. It's very strange. I'm glad I'm a performer.
The venue. You didn't tell me the venue for your dream panto.
Oh, do you know what it would be? It would be a village hall. It would be it would be a proper little village hall. In fact, I'll probably do a tour of village halls and find the smallest, cosiest, Vicar of Dibley-ish village hall. Yeah, it would be one of those. Proper old school, with folding wooden chairs for everyone to sit on, with numb bums. And it would be, God, could you imagine all those people? Victoria Wood, French and Saunders, Paul O'Grady. I was actually just thinking Jack's mum could be played by like Joan Collins or something, just to add a bit of glam.
Can you imagine her in a village hall?
But that's what I
The
mean. It'd be
dressing room,
brilliant.
The dressing room.
We need to make this happen. Actually, I think Denise Pearson belting out songs dressed as a beanstalk. I mean, this has got success written all over it. To be honest, in a village hall, it'd be great. And I'd have to be in it because I'd want to be selfish and I'd want to, be in part of all of that. I'd want to be in the pub afterwards hearing stories, and what happened on stage that night. Especially in a village hall, things are going to go very wrong.
Is that a part of Panto as well you're going to miss this year, about the camaraderie of the team?
Well, yeah, I mean, who knows how that's going to work. Yeah. I think, and obviously they've announced social distancing up until November. So we'll have to rehearse social distancing with masks on. And I know a few people that have been cast this year. I don't know when this goes out. I don't know if we'll know about it. But they're sort of older. And that's a risk, isn't it? So I don't know how that's going to happen. And that's scary, isn't it? It's scary that you're so used to doing something in a certain way. And we rehearse at Windsor in a week. I mean, actually, on Monday morning, we do a meet and greet and a read-through. So we start rehearsals like Monday afternoon. And by Friday evening, we're pretty much trying to do a producer's run off script. So we only have about 4 days. But to do it all with social distancing is just... I can't imagine. But, you just have to... People are going through awful times, losing jobs. So if you're working, you just got to crack on, haven't you? And think of it as something a bit different. Hopefully it won't be the same next year. So it's just sort of one-off and just, do it.
Well, Martin, thank you so much for spending time chatting to the Panto podcast.
Thank you very much. I've now got to go and do a show. The sun's shining though. The sun's shining, so that's good. And let's hope for the best, eh? Thank you.
Cheers.
I'm going to go and get a jigsaw. Can I get one Kevin's face on it? I might have to. That could be a present. I might get you one for Christmas with Kevin's face.